Hi, this is Dave, and before we get to the show, I wanted to ask you a favor. One of our goals this year is to grow the show so that What Does Star Wars Mean to You reaches more listeners. And that's where we're asking you for help. And it's really easy. Wherever you listen to us, please hit that subscribe button. If you're liking the show, give us a 5-star rating and review on the platform you listen to us. We make a lot of fun of the algorithm and the smash that button thing, but it really does help us get noticed by new fans. And if you want to join in on the conversation, find us on social at Star Wars Mean to You. That's Star Wars Mean, the number 2 in the letter U. Now, let's chat some Star Wars.
A collection on its own is cool, but sharing a collection is what makes it worthwhile.
Hello there, this is Dave, and I'm an original trilogy kid.
And this is Laura. I'm a prequel trilogy kid. Welcome to What Does Star Wars Mean to You, the show where we talk to all kinds of fans of Star Wars to take the hate out of the debate and look at this franchise from a certain point of view, one fan at a time. Who do we got today, Dave?
Today I'm really excited because we got a couple of mega collectors. We're collecting mega collectors.
We are.
It's Lisa Stevens and Vic Wertz. There are a couple who have lots of close ties to Star Wars, actually. Lisa was the Star Wars brand manager for Wizards of the Coast, amongst many, many other things.
So cool.
And Vic was an associate editor for Star Wars magazine, amongst many, many other
also
things.
Very cool.
What really brings them to us today is they own the Imperial Archives, and this is one of the largest collections of Star Wars memorabilia in the world. And it includes a home theater designed by Doug Chiang from Lucasfilm.
Oh, yeah, they have a whole cantina. Like, oh,
yes.
My God. Their collection's insane. This was such a fun conversation.
It really was. And we're also going to talk to them about the Saga Museum, which is a museum that Lisa and Vic are working with 3 other mega collectors, Rancho Obi-Wan being one of them, Steve Sansweet, to put together a Star Wars memorabilia museum for the fans by the fans.
Which is such an awesome idea. Yeah.
It really is. It really is. So let's go talk to them.
Oh, yeah. Let's do it.
Okay. Can I say it?
Oh, yes.
Luke, we're going to have company. What we always like to ask all our guests before we start up is, are you ready to share with the world what does Star Wars mean to you?
Sure.
Why not? Would we be
Why
here?
not?
Would we be here?
Exactly.
Well, we love to jump into Five with the Force. We'll get your Star Wars baseline. Which is your go-to favorite? Which film?
Well, for me, it has to be A New Hope, because I saw that as a child. You know, I was one of those kids that would, in my little small town in Neenah, Wisconsin, I would, every Saturday, my parents would drop me off in the morning at the theater if there was a new film in town. And I'd go see whatever new film hit the theater. It was probably, I don't remember exactly what date. I'm sure it was an opening weekend in my little small town. And I had no idea what it was in for. It's like I knew it was going to be science fiction. I liked science fiction. I read science fiction books. And so I was like, oh, cool, new science fiction. And then, the opening crawl happened, and then you got this the Star Destroyer zooming over, and you're like, what the heck is this? And I have to tell George this story, which was really fun.
Oh, wow.
And it is just like, but it just, changed my life. It's like, for me, that was like, it'll always be my favorite, because I went and saw it again and again and again and again until it went away. I don't know how many times I saw it, but a lot. My parents thought I was a little loopy, going to the same movie over and over again. Just drop me off, I'll stay for the day, That thing,
That's awesome.
I have to choose the original Star Wars. I mean, even though Empire it's more fully realized in many ways, I can't give it as high marks as everyone else puts the favorite. I can't give it as high marks because it doesn't have an ending, right?
Yeah.
It's a middle. And the original is a complete story. Even if any other movie had never been made, that would be the one for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the things about the original is it was the first one.
Mm-hmm.
It started it all.
It changed everything.
Okay, Dave, can you roll a D6 for me?
Yes. I'll do a D6 for Lisa and a D6 for Vic.
Ooh, fun. Okay. This is our random question.
So it's 2 for Lisa.
Lisa, who is your favorite minor character?
So how do you define a minor character? I mean, is Boba Fett a minor character? He didn't have that big of a role, and he's just
Pretty minor.
Yeah.
how many lines did he have?
I would
right?
say maybe no, like whoever's not on the
3?
poster, maybe. Yeah.
I mean, he did have a whole series named after him, but
That's true.
Yeah.
There was an
Yeah.
entire
Well,
book
that's
for
true.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It just depends on how you like. I mean, right.
From a certain point of view.
Character. Yeah, that's an interesting one. Boy, I didn't pre-plan that one in my brain.
We go with Boba Fett.
Go.
Yeah.
I'll get you an answer sec. You go
Okay.
give Vic a question.
Okay, let me
Alright.
roll for Vic. Vic got 6 spaceship or vehicle.
Ooh, favorite spaceship or vehicle?
man, the formerly enslaved person to one.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just a great look, and it was one of my favorite toys as a kid.
With the gyroscope.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the ramp and the little Han and carbonite that was totally cheesy,
Yes.
but kind of fit in there if you wedged it in just right. Man, and the stickers that would fall off.
Or
It was awesome.
the side panel that came out so you could access the
Uh-huh.
interior.
Great design.
Perfect toy.
Perfect. Lisa, do we want to stick with Boba Fett or do we got someone else in mind?
I don't. I mean, for me, it's hard to come up with a minor
It
character.
is.
It's like I keep coming up with that guy kind of minor. Oh, they're on the poster too. And then
Oh.
when we did the poster thing, it was like, and then it's which poster, right? Because there's
Yes.
so many posters.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'm going through going, well, not that poster. On that one,
I-
though. Oh, the Struzen for the re-release. Yeah, they're on that one. And you're just like, I mean, I don't know. I mean,
I'm going to give you a reroll.
most quoted minor character, it would be Admiral Akbar. It's a drop. And
Yes.
I'm always
Solid
saying that,
choice.
right? So I mean, I don't know. I
Solid
mean,
choice.
I would have Mon Mothma, but then she's a major character now. So
That's
I
true.
don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just going. It's just my brain starts going. I have a funny story about a minor character.
Yeah.
So I took my father. I'll talk about that first week where I went to the movie, A New Hope again. And finally, my dad decided to come and watch the movie with me. And afterwards, he was like, I don't get that. What was that big, tall, fuzzy thing? And he was just like,
Aw.
kid, whatever. He didn't really understand and stuff like that. So decades later,
Yeah.
he and my mom decide to move part-time to Florida. And he gets down there and he sends me this email. He goes, Lisa, any idea where the local Wedge Antilles fan club is here down here? And I just like, what? And just like, I didn't know where he came up with Wedge Antilles or any of this stuff, right? Like,
Yeah.
my dad's not a Star Wars fan
Such a
at
deep
all.
cut.
And it's such a deep cut. So there's your minor character, right? I mean, and it's just like, I don't even know how to answer this question. My dad that's my dad. He has a very wry sense of humor. And so it just for
Wow.
him, he probably spent a bunch of time researching that too.
Good for him. That's so funny.
I was almost like, you mean, he obviously Dennis lost his character, right?
Yeah.
And I almost want to say that, see if you figured it out.
Yeah. See how much research he actually did.
Yeah, did
Yeah.
you really research that? Because, we have more modern versions. Do you like him in the Rogue Squadron books? Or, it's just like,
Yeah.
So funny.
just like, but he almost wanted to push him, but I was just so flummoxed, dude. I was like, I don't think he has his own fan club. That's too bad. It's a good character.
That's so funny. Okay, Vic, we'll toss it to you next. What's your favorite line to quote?
Oh boy. I got a bad feeling about this. I mean, that comes up in
Yeah.
my life all too often.
Same.
Yeah.
Lisa, what about you?
I'd have to probably go with do or do not. There's no tribe.
I like that. That's a great one.
I ran a company, right, for many years. And so people be like, all right, I'll try it. And I'll do or do not. There's no try. I mean, that was like Master Yoda. I mean, that's wisdom for the centuries,
Yeah.
right? I mean, any of the quotes he gave Luke when he was, flummoxing Luke and making him all like, I love those, because they're great, because they're all smart, words do want make one great, all that stuff, right? Just so,
Crude matter we are not.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, Yoda's the great quote.
We love Yoda.
And he's also a great minor character.
Yeah. Until he gets his own show.
Besides the films, what is your favorite Star Wars content? Vic, do you want to take this one first?
Well, I mean, Andor was really good. The Clone Wars cartoon, it started a little slow, but by the time it got to the end, man, it was killing it. The last couple seasons,
Yep.
so good. Lisa mentioned the Rogue Squadron novels from back, in the round the turn of the century. Those were so good by Mike Stackpole and Aaron Alston.
Yeah.
They easily the best fiction in the Star Wars universe.
Nice.
I haven't read them yet, but a lot of people have been talking about them, like that they're right up there with like Revenge of the Sith novelization, and I want to. It's on my list of Star Wars, my next to read list of Star Wars books.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah.
They are so good. They really bring those X-wing pilots out, and then when you watch the battles again in the movies, and then all of a sudden you now know a lot of these people.
Know who they are.
It makes you like really scared for them because they're out there battling, and you've seen the movies, and then you've seen the, I mean, when they're making a maneuver, and hey, so and so, there's someone on my tail, blah blah blah, right? And you're like kind of get it a little more because you're right inside their head. You've read whatever it is, like 6 books or 5 or 6 books.
Yeah.
And hopefully they'll do the movie, the Rogue Squadron movie.
That'd be great.
I think it's back on again.
I know.
Yeah.
They've been hitting pause and play on a ton of stuff recently, and they just shelved the Rey movie, I think. I said. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
I only believe them when there's a trailer. And then I'm like, oh, okay, I'll get excited for this.
And a release date announced.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good.
Our last with 5 in the Force is, what was the first item in your collection?
Well, I didn't like it to hear my answer.
You
I'm sorry. I thought we were talking about the books. I apologize. No,
I did mention them earlier.
I got lost there in the sauce for a moment. I apologize.
I have a lot of favorite. I mean, I have a lot. Most people have deep dives into Star Wars in many ways, but I got to bring one up that I bet you not a lot of people bring up, and that is the Galactic Starcruiser at Disney.
Ooh!
Nick and I got to go on that before it closed down, and it was it was like about 3 days, is the best days of our lives. I mean, it was so amazing, and so immersive, and just and something we were looking forward to doing every year. We would have easily gone every year. And done it because it was so deep and rich, and there's so many ways you could take the story, and as a participant, and the characters were just so believable, and you got to be friends with them. I mean, I went in and basically if they're not going to get me to join the rebellion, no way. I'm a scoundrel. I had a whole scoundrel backstory, and everything.
That.
And I was just I was coming in. I'm going to be the scoundrel. I'm going to be. If there's sides, I'm going to play them off each other for profit. I mean, I am in this for myself. Very Han Solo, right? What's in it for me, And I get in, and I'm in there, and I make the friends with this engineer early on. We're just kind of hang out and talk and stuff. And before you know it, he's trying to get me to do stuff for the rebellion. I'm like, fuck. I made friends with a fucking rebel spy right away. And then it's just and then of course I couldn't betray him. And so I did help us. I did help us negotiate with some of the scoundrels and help scoundrels
so
help
funny.
the rebellion, which was good because I had my scoundrel backstory and stuff. But it was really fun. I don't know
it was a redemption arc.
I don't know how they did. Though my favorite moment of the entire week was, and it's a Vic moment. There was Chewbacca's hiding in this one area, and we need to sneak him across the bridge, and the captain is on the bridge. And engineer guy comes over and he's like, Lisa Vic, I need your help. We need to get Chewbacca across the bridge. Can you distract the captain while we're getting Chewbacca across? So I'm trying to think how I'm going to do this, and without even moment's notice, Vic strides up to the captain hey, didn't we go to high school together at Emperor Palpatine High School in Coruscant? And the guy's like, well, what are you talking about? And he's like, no, come on. Back, remember, in Coruscant, remember our fight song? He starts making shit up. And the guy's just blubbering. He's like, what is this thing? And while this is going on, Chewbacca's in the back of us. In the back of us, you see Chewbacca sneaking, right? The huge, tall Wookiee sneaking across the bridge. I was about in tears. I was laughing so hard.
That is hilarious.
It's just and you understand, Vic doesn't really do role playing or making shit. He does a little role playing with me because I do an own role playing game company, but it's not his style, yet he was so into character, so into the story, so into what's going on that he did that like moment's notice. It was pretty dang cool.
That is
That's awesome.
To
awesome.
you, Vic.
It was fun.
That's hilarious.
It's really-
I love that so much. I'm so glad we did not miss that nugget.
Yeah.
I'll ask this again so Dave's editing's a little bit easier. Our final of the 5 with the Force. What was your first item in the collection?
Well, the first Star Wars item I ever bought was probably the Marvel comic because it was out right around the same time as the movie. But the most, what started...
What started? Okay.
You want to tell the story?
Yeah.
I can tell the story.
At least I like to tell the story.
By the way, my first was the novelization, but way back in the day because I had to get the novel as soon as I saw the movie. So, and then I got the comic books and blah blah blah. Because I was an old kid, and I was in junior high. And it was like, it's right between junior, senior, and freshman year. Anyway, 7th, 8th grade, I think. Anyway, so Vic and I. We get together in, we start talking to each other in 1992, and by 93, we decided to move in with each other. So we start figuring out what we're, what we found each other because of music, a music group we liked called the Indigo Girls. And so we figure out, and we find out we have Star Wars in common, right? So, Vic had told me about growing up as a kid and playing with his action figures and toys and stuff like that. And I knew one of his favorite characters was Boba Fett. And so...
not a minor character either.
Not even a minor character. Even though he didn't have many lines, put Captain Solo in the cargo hold or put Captain Cargo in the solo hold or something. I don't know. That's an old Jeremy Bullock joke, by the way. Anyway, I think the first time he said put Captain Cargo in the solo hold, the first time he actually did that. Anyway. So I'm doing research I was working at Wizards of the Coast at the time, and we were looking at trying to do more of a mass market type of game stuff. And I went to Toys R Us just to research their mass market, what games are in Toys R Us. And I see a whole end cap of Star Wars action figures, about 95, I think it was.
Oh, yeah.
And I go, hey, they have new Star Wars action figures. Oh, okay. Oh, hey, it's Boba Fett. I grabbed it off the rack, and I check out, I buy a Boba Fett. And I give it to Vic at dinner that night. Hey, Vic, they got new action figures. There's Boba Fett. And, and stuff like that. It's kind of just a one-off, just sort of like, and then he's like, oh, cool. Yeah. Oh, and then, well, I wonder if they have any others. So we went back to Toys R Us, and of course he went and, like a kid,
Yes.
And then we went, not that long after that, we went to a convention at Dragon Con down in Atlanta, and a bunch of Dave Prowse was there, Jeremy Bullock, Peter Mayhew, Kenny Baker, blah, blah, blah. And so I need to get these all. I buy some more and get them all autographed. Oh, hey, there's variants, long saber trays, short saber trays, blah 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 blah. And and before you know it, we're down the rabbit.
Yeah.
And we're buying all these different things, and then we all of a sudden stand up, and we're like, so we started like hitting Goodwill stores and stuff like that, or antique stores, or anybody looking for old stuff. Old comic book stores still had stuff in at that time.
Yep.
And we started buying anything Star Wars we saw pretty much, and had a little a spare room in our house, so we started put some shelves in, and it grew from there.
Wow.
This was history.
I feel like that's a really, like, the collection you see behind me is like from 1980 and then beyond. And I just really feel like 95, for where your collection is now, 95 feels like a late start.
Yeah, it is.
And that's really impressive. Was there any kind of evolution of like, oh, we're going to collect the Power Force characters as they come out, and then you drift into the older Kenner figures or into other at the time released toys, or go ahead, Vic.
When I was a kid, I was completist. I didn't realize that at the time. But, whenever I get the opportunity, I'd buy a Star Wars action figure. And then in the 90s, when I went back and I was like, I had all these when I was a kid. Let's see what's in my mom's basement and match them up against the list. I had every single one from the first one until I grew out of it in about 1982. And
Mhm.
every like I had the blue snaggletooth. I had the weird ones even. But I got every single one. And
Wow.
that completist mentality, kind of like when Lisa brought back that Boba Fett and it had a few pictured on the back, I'm like, well, I gotta catch them
Yes.
all.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
then so we did, right? So yeah, it started with cleaning up the Hasbro stuff, but we got in really early on that. That the first wave or two had just come out, and then they'd announced some new ones, but those weren't coming for like another 3 months. So we're like, well, what else can we buy?
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
So we started branching out, and then we bought the novels. We'd heard Heir to the Empire was really good, and started buying all those. And I started picking up the comic books that I'd missed when I was a kid. So at first, it was filling in holes from my childhood,
Yep.
mixed with the latest new media, and then Lisa got really inspired by Steve Sansweet, and she can talk about that.
Yeah.
And then eBay.
Yeah. I mean, I think that
Oh,
I,
and
I,
then eBay.
Love it. We love eBay.
there was
Love eBay.
a number of things all conspired in I think it was 1999, and that was we had the Star Wars Celebration for the episode 1 that was on in Denver in the cold and rain, and but got to meet Steve Sansweet there, and I bought a hardback version of the Tomart Guide to Star Wars Collectibles, which Steve authored, and
Yes.
Steve signed it for me and everything. And I also got from Concept Screen the collectible, also autographed by Steve Dirk. And so I kind of dove into those. And also around the same, so Vic had gotten on the internet in the early, a little before that, and found a Star Wars group called Sarlacc up here in Seattle. It's the group that Gus started collecting it. So supposedly the longest active collecting group in the United States. I don't know exactly how they measure that, but hey, I believe them. And Vic was on the internet with them, and usually talking about when people would see the action figures at the local stores or whatever, they'd let people know. And
Yeah.
and so we went to the a sort of like a premiere event up here in Seattle for episode 1. There was a little party ahead of time in a tent, where everybody got to sit there and listen to Star Wars music and eat little snacks and whatever. And
Cute.
and Vic randomly, someone sees Vic's name bag, and Vic, and they're like, "You're not Indigo Vic, are you?" And yeah. And oh my God! And they're like, everybody's like, "Come over here, everybody! This is Indigo Vic," and stuff. And
Oh,
we met the whole
wow.
Sarlacc crew at that event. And so that
Awesome.
so then all of a sudden we started going to the Sarlacc group events every month, and then it just happened at that time. Lots of cool stuff coming in, Kenner prototypes, props. I got Greedo's mask worn by Paul
Yes.
Blake at one of the Sarlacc.
Oh, that's cool.
So all of a sudden, interesting, weird, crazy stuff starts coming in. And so we start buying things like that, and hard copy prototypes and unproduced figures, whatever. And then eBay happened right about the same time. And and I had this Tomart guide sitting in front of me, and I had I could open up a page and go, that looks cool. I wonder if I can find that on eBay, right? And all of a sudden I'm diving into eBay and I'm buying stuff, and there are boxes showing up every day, and and so it was like that. There was just like that little thing that Sarlacc and eBay and the Tomart guide were like the three things that really, for me, just pushed us into the next level. And then also at right about that same time, my company was the Coast got the Star Wars license too.
Yeah.
And so I was able to be the brand manager for Star Wars at my work, my day job too, on top of it.
Wow.
And I got to go to the Lucasfilm a bunch, and so it kind of, all those things were the things that kind of turbocharged. And we also met a couple of people who were selling Star Wars at a pretty high level. Tom Derby at Cloud City Collectibles back in the day, and then Jordan Hembraw at
Hollywood Heroes.
Yeah, Hollywood Heroes were the two big guys that really kind of gave us a solid supply. I keep looking at the dates where they bought a lot of stuff. And there's they'd buy big collections. Sometimes we'd fly out and
Wow.
and be the first people to look at this huge collection and pick what we wanted. And then big huge shit when you come back. And and it also helped that we sold my company Wizard of the Coast to Hasbro about that time, because all of a sudden I had a lot more money than I ever had in my life, and so that
Yeah.
it
Helps.
you need money to get all this
Yeah.
stuff, and it was just it was kind of a perfect storm of all these events.
Yeah.
And kind of the return of Star Wars into the public eye as well.
That too. I mean, running around, we used to we had Star Wars routes of Star Wars collecting routes through stores. We had the
Yes.
southern route and the northern route, and the way, depending which way we wanted to go. And the southern route was better, had more stores. But sometimes we'd get up at like 5, 6 a.m. in the morning, and we'd be out, if it was a release day or something like that, and we wouldn't come back until middle of the afternoon with a car jammed to the ceiling with Star Wars stuff.
Wow, how fun.
We took
and
like
it's
every aisle at Walmart just in case.
Yes.
Oh, there's baby furniture. There's kid sweaters. Every aisle.
It's you were talking about the Sarlacc group, and it reminds me of someone I follow on Instagram who is in Seattle, and they're like, "Hey, these are the Star Wars figures at my local Target in the Seattle area." And I'm a little outside of Seattle, but it's not in my area. I know that because I go to the Target and I'm like, "Oh, it's just Darth Vader."
Yeah.
Instead of all the good ones.
Yep.
I want to dive into your collection a little. I mean, I literally want to dive into your collection, but I also, in talking, I want to dive into your collection a bit. But I just want to give a brief highlight of it. You have 3 rare Boba Fett rocket launching action figures. This is the prototype they made. Blueprints for the first Star Wars toys ever made, which sounds really cool. Nearly all the arcade games tied to the franchise. Movie props from Yoda masks to lightsabers to blown apart X-Wing fighters. My favorite bullet, enough Lego sets and action figures to fill a toy store. That's kind of like a dream in my own head. It's to have that toy store aisle. And a full-size replica of the cantina from the first movie. In your house, I'm assuming?
No, it's in a building we were building. We had to build we filled our house. We built our house kind of half of our house was built to house our collectibles, and then it filled up. And then the rest of the other rooms, the other house, are full of boxes and stuff. And not fulfilling their purpose they were built for. And and so then we decided to build about 10,000 square foot warehouse.
Nice.
For King County, if you're listening, 9,999 square feet.
Yes.
They made us cut 10
I
feet
live in
or
King
5
County
feet off.
too.
They're so specific. It's ridiculous.
Was
We're working on a build project ourselves right now for the nonprofit.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
And they made us move a telephone pole to a street that nobody ever turns down because it's a private road.
Oh, I know. Trust me. I know. They wanted me to do a freaking hammerhead turnaround for a full length fire engine in my front, my house. And,
oh God.
No. Yeah.
Sorry.
Back to Star Wars.
Yeah, back to Star Wars.
Yeah, Star Wars is much more fun. But yeah, no, we had a 10,000 square foot building we built it finished right before the pandemic, which was great for us because then it was a pandemic project filling it.
Absolutely.
Which wasn't hard.
Do you find yourself like reorganizing your collection into displays, or do you have kind of a set display that you have like your prize items out or what you want to view out?
In our main house, like Lisa said, we built our house with a whole wing set aside for Star Wars stuff. We call it the X-Wing. And that's where the arcade is. In your list of bullet points, it said almost every Star Wars arcade room. It's because we filled that room and there's no room for any more. So we haven't that couple. But then there's 7 interconnected rooms that were meant to house kind of everything, but we filled that up, which is why we needed to build the 10,000 square foot building. So the 7 interconnected rooms in the main house are now kind of high-end display. Our props, there's a room dedicated to Japan. Vintage Kenner Prototypes is a room. Actually, there's vintage Kenner action figure related prototypes, and then vintage Kenner non-action figure like Micro Machines and coins and things like that.
That is so cool.
Yeah, and then prop replicas, and there's cases full of just interesting stuff.
Yeah.
But then in the 10,000 square feet, the top floor of it is meant for kind of like a museum-like display. So there are dozens of glass cases to fill with high-end collectibles. Along one side of that upstairs, we have all the Black Carded Series figures are on one wall.
Oh, wow.
At the back of that room is the cantina. And on the right side of that wall room is the Gentle Giant Jumbos cover about half of a wall. And then downstairs is for, there's a little section of museum type display, which is where we have all our vintage commercial products, not prototypes, officially released stuff. And there's a Japanese Hot Toys case. And then that's where we have kind of our bulk shelving. So it's rows and rows of shelves for here's a shelf for Japanese Takaratomi. Here's a shelf for, a couple of shelves for Mattel. Each year of Hasbro has its own shelf because they make so much stuff. There's a whole row of shelves for Lego boxes. And then going around the walls downstairs, on the walls are the carded Hasbro action figures from 1996 to present. And it covers all three walls of the building.
Yeah.
And then there's a kind of shelf there, and that has loose built Lego sets, all of them. So I've got them all loose on display, and then all boxed in the shelves. So two of each.
Yeah, two of each. That's the collector's dream.
Yep.
In your Power of the Force collection, do you have a special place for that first Boba Fett, or is he just is he just a minor character within the tapestry of the Power of the Force?
He's probably not on display because I would have opened that one. But then I would have gotten a carded one that is on the wall. And then, like she said, we had Jeremy Bullock sign one. And then there's the variant, with the stripes on the hands and the no stripes on the hands or whatever. It's a rabbit hole.
That is I do want to talk about the Saga Museum. I'm really curious. What is there an item in your collection that just is the item that brings you so much joy?
Ooh,
yeah,
that's a picking kids kind of thing.
I'll start with it because so you've seen the large. I think it's bronze Yoda statue that Larry Noble did for George Lucas. He has one at ILM, one on Big Rock and stuff like that. Well, we had a chance to get in on those when they were being made, and so we have number 2 of whatever 2 of 20, I think it was, or something. And he's in our hallway, and so I walked down the hallway. It's right before the arcade, right before our collection, and every time I walk down there, I rub his head and go, "Good day, Master. Good morning, Master," or whatever. And so and he always makes me smile. He always makes me smile every time I walk by him. And now the top of his head's a little rubbed off, it's like if you ever go to Europe, you see the places where the pilgrims rub a special stone and it gets off. Starting to get that just from how many times I've touched him up there, which is probably not great for a museum piece, but hey, he's special.
But so. I feel like every museum piece should be a personal piece to begin with.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's part of the history of it too.
I'm sorry, Vic. I don't want to step on you if you have an answer before I ask my next question.
Yeah, one of my favorite pieces. We've got a set of prototypes made for the Kenner's Early Bird kit. Right. So this is when they couldn't have action figures in time for Christmas 1977. So they sold kids an empty box with a mail-in form, send a scoop on back, and when the figures are ready in March,
my
send them to you.
God.
So when Kenner had to pitch this idea to Lucasfilm, and when they did that, they handmade these little prototype certificates. And they were actually perforated, there's a tear-off perforated section. The perforations were done with a sewing machine, And they presented this to a meeting. It was George Lucas was there, Gary Kurtz, producer of Star Wars, Mark Peevers from Lucasfilm, and Charlie Lippincott from Lucasfilm. And they made 6 of these forms, and they asked them to fill out the forms, to get the whole experience, just like it'll be when you're a kid on Christmas Day. And each of them filled out a form, and George filled out one with his old home address. George also filled out one for Steven Spielberg, and then Charlie filled out one for Alan Ladd Jr., who was the president of Fox Studios. And then after this meeting, like the intern, he's swept up the certificates and kept them, and eventually we were able to get them from him.
Wow.
So it's not only pretty much the earliest Kenner prototype thing there is, but it's also George Lucas wrote on it.
Yeah.
Right?
That's amazing.
It's amazing that it existed. It's amazing that it still exists. And it's amazing that we have them and are able to put this in the Saga Museum eventually.
Yeah, I want to talk one more. I have one more quick one that makes me smile, because if you know the Kenner story, they came a little late to the game in terms of getting product out the door, right? And if you also know the making of the movie, George is changing stuff at the last minute. It was practically they were done, and a couple weeks later it was out, type of thing. So it wasn't like nowadays where things might be much more finished months ahead of time, right? This was right up to the moment. So Kenner gets in late to the game, and they want to start making stuff, but stuff is still, there's nothing, there's not a lot of finished stuff to show them. And so they arranged for a couple of the Kenner designers to come out and watch some very early cuts of the film without special effects, without music, without anything, right? Just kind of like clips of the movie that were done. But they wouldn't let them take pictures or anything. So these designers went in, and they kind of basically had to quickly sketch characters, like on a just like and they have big the big sheets of white paper or whatever, and they were just quickly just drawing these characters as they saw them on the screen, right? And now and so we have a number of them, like Chewbacca, Han Solo, Stormtrooper, things like that they had sketched, and then they took these back and started using those to make the sculptures, to make the action figures, to make the and stuff like that. But this is like these guys sitting in this room with these, probably in some little TV set or something, watching these little dailies, or whatever, and just quickly sketching, from the rough cut of the movie, the things that became the toys is pretty cool. It's pretty neat that again, that those still exist. Historically, they just tell that story so well.
I'm loving, we've talked to a lot of collectors on our show, and I always love to hear collectors' perspectives on their collections, because there's always something that kind of motivates the collection. And I'm hearing so much love for the process of the filmmaking and the history of the franchise and the people who, created the story that we all know and love so much, and the amount of kind of innovation that went into that at the time and the history of it all. So am I right? What is it, I want to kind of ask, what is it that you feel motivates people to collect, and what has driven you in this collection?
Well, I'm not sure about motivation, but one thing that I really enjoy is the process. I love, these toys don't just appear in the store, right? There's a process, and it starts with, a designer at Lucasfilm and goes through all these stages. So another one of my favorite collectibles, and something I put together over years from different sources, is this run that tells the story of how the Rancor vintage toy was made.
Wow.
So we've got original Kenner drawings of here's conceptually what it can look like. Then I've got a clay sculpt for it, which is literally hand sculpted clay over metal armature of the Rancor. It's the very beginning of the 3-dimensional toy. And then there's a wax version that was cast from the clay, because clay doesn't hold fine detail, and wax is the more finely detailed. And then there's silicone molds, because in order to make the final toys, they need to make steel molds to put the high pressure, high temperature plastic in. And you can't make that off wax because the wax would melt. So they have this step in between where they're casting the wax in silicone and then filling the silicone with this hard 2-part epoxy material. So we've managed to collect almost the entire Rancor in almost all of these stages. Like I'm missing a leg here in this stage or an arm in that stage, but I've basically got the whole run. Silicone molds, everything right up to the steel molds, which I've heard are in Hong Kong Harbor now.
Oh.
Yeah, those no longer exist. And then, first shot prototype toys and packaging samples and so
really
much
cool.
went into putting that toy into Kmart in 1983, and it's important to retain that and to respect it.
The process. I like that.
What I also love about this is, and I think this is a great introduction to the Saga Museum of Star Wars Memorabilia, is that you've collected the journey of this, the creation and execution and presentation of this toy. And I think that is the type of thing I like to see in a museum, is the story of how it came about from beginning to end, almost the evolution. Can you tell us a little bit about the Saga Museum, what you're looking to do, and how you see it being executed?
Sure, I'll handle that one. We're kind of tag teaming here.
Yes, absolutely.
Which is cool.
No, it's very cool.
So the Saga Museum started. So we've known each other. I've known Steve since the '90s. Gus, I met Steve and Gus probably the same year. I met Duncan. I might have met Duncan that same celebration. I was really close. If not then, it was the next celebration. And so we've known each other for a while, and we're all kind of super collectors. So it's kind of. At first, I was aspirational to have a super collection like them, and then all of a sudden, I have one, and then we're sharing tips, and we'd buy things for each other, and if we were in saw something interesting that the other ones didn't have, and so it was a friendship built up, and then as we got older, the question came: none of us have kids. What happens to these collections if we die? And that was kind of like the thing for me. Is like we were estate planning and. Like, wow, we have this huge collection and it's just worth a lot of money. It'd just be a shame for us to die and it just gets sold off for whatever, right? It's like, what's the purpose of it? And that was it. We started thinking like, what was the purpose of this collections that we built? And we started, we kind of randomly talked about it for a while, and then Gus kind of got it. Like, okay, we're going to get together in a Zoom call and we're going to, we're going to talk about like what we want, and stuff like that. And we're all like, yeah, this, it would be cool if this did something bigger, if this actually went on and we could share this with more people. I mean, Rancho Obi-Wan's been, for way over 10 years now, has been a 501c3, available on the weekends for people to visit by appointment and stuff. So, thousands of people have gone through and seen Steve's collection. But, we really want that to be tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people seeing it. And it's like, and we're just like, what if we could start a museum? This is way big enough collections, almost too big a collection. We have over 1.5 million pieces between us, and it's like, would it be kind of cool to put together a world-class museum? I mean, high end. Up there with the best museums in the world. And then we start talking. We get together and start talking about what the stories and everything, and it's just so many. Like you said, that whole the story you kind of talked about the creation. So Steve's book, the other book that inspired me was From Concept to Screen to Collectible. Was Steve's first book he ever wrote for Star Wars back in '92. I think it was 1992. I have it right here.
Yes,
autographed even. Yeah. Anyway, it's this book is really neat because it talks about the concept, how Star Wars came to be, how it got made into a movie, and then how the whole collectible industry, of that wasn't a thing back then. Really, movies didn't have much more than a few throwaway things, maybe a T-shirt or something. And then this whole thing is just rather new, and George kind of invented it. And now we just think about it all the time as being every Marvel movie, Harry Potter, whatever, comes out, they have all this merchandise, but that wasn't always the case. And and that was something Star Wars created. So that story is the cool story to tell. And then for the Saga Museum, we thought it was really important to add from concept to screen to collectible to community. Because to us, what really kind of drives Star Wars forward is this community of Star Wars fandom that grew up. And back in the early days, there wasn't a whole lot of Star Wars. And so the fans got together and the fans made Star Wars a bigger thing, right? You know, whether it was sitting in line waiting for the opening of the movie to get tickets, or whether it was forming little fanzines or little fan groups or whatever. That's kind of, I think, what really built up, and especially what took Star Wars from the Return of the Jedi until we got away all the way to special editions, you know, and there wasn't much Star Wars. We call it the dark years, you know.
Yes.
And fandom is what really brought that forward. And so we really think community of Star Wars is really a big part of the story too. And so we really wanted to add that. So we think basically that idea is the crux of this museum, you know, the kind of the main exhibit. But there's so many other stories to tell. And I think that's the fun thing about a big museum is you can have the core, you know, exhibit that tells the main story, but then you can sit there and dive into crazy cereal boxes from around the world, or you know, Star Wars in Brazil, or whatever. You know, you can kind of just go down any rabbit hole. And if you know, if you know, someone dies, you can, you know, like an actor or actress or someone who worked on the movie, you could put together a little exhibit about them and what they did and their influence and things like that. So I think there's a lot of fun things the museum could do, and our collections are big enough where we have the ability to tell all these different stories and put them in front of people. So we'd have a rotating, you know, thing of exhibits that would come through the museum. So it'd always be fresh. It'd always be something new, something to inspire. That's one of the things we wanted to do is we want to inspire through the Force, inspire through Star Wars, make people make people feel happy too. You know, I mean, bring back great moments from their lives and things like that, but inspire them into, you know, into the future. We want to take kids and inspire them to find their careers and to dream big, and so that's, you know, we have this kind of audacious goal of where we want this thing to go. We have the collections for it. I mean, the hard part's getting the museum built. You know, it's really kind of the big lift. But I truly believe that fandom of Star Wars is big enough that, like, seriously, if like every Star Wars fan in the world gave us $20, we'd be able to build this museum. I mean, it's that big of a fandom out there, right? So I think for us, it's just how do we you know, get this out there in front of enough people to you know, to get this thing built, because it's going to be, you know, Lucasfilm, by the way, is behind us doing this thing. They've given us, but they want this to be a museum by the fans for the fans.
Yes,
they want this to be a very fan focused thing and not a corporate.
And so do we. It's important that we not have a license, that we're not a house organ for Lucasfilm.
Yeah.
So, you know, we can tell the stories as they need to be told, not necessarily how someone might want them to be told.
But also work with them a lot, and we have been working with them. We put exhibits up at ILM all the time. You know, like, you know, when you know, 15th anniversary of A New Hope, Episode 1, Phantom Menace came up, we had an exhibit there. You know, we work with them. We work with a lot of different people, and so we want it to be a community resource, and also we want it to be a research museum where people that want to research the collectibles can come and have this great trove of Star Wars to kind of research for future books or blogs or websites or whatever, right? I mean, you know, and then keep it there for posterity, because, you know, we're not going to, you know, I probably won't be here 40, 50 years from now. So, you know, it'd be nice if the collection was there growing and a new generation of people will be inspired by it.
Yeah.
I think that's...
No, that covers it pretty well.
I think between the 4 collections, there's something like 1.5 million items, which is a lot of...
Kind of guessing, but yeah.
And I'm sure there's a lot of items that fit together like puzzle pieces. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of overlap. I'm sure everyone has the greenback Boba Fett from Power of the Force 1995. But I also think things like your Rancor, and I'm just kind of...
I have a great story to tell us.
Great.
This is one of my favorites. So I always like to play the game, try to stump Steve Sansweet, you know, a little bit. I went to visit Steve once, and he's like, "Oh, hey, what any cool new stuff you bought, right?"
He's coming to visit us this time.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
It's important to the story.
It's important.
Yeah.
And so, like, oh yeah, I said, I just acquired Qui-Gon Jinn's boots from his funeral scene in episode 1.
Oh,
And
wow.
I thought Steve would be like, "Oh, that's really cool." Instead, I get the scowl and almost a little angry look on his face. He's like, "I have those boots," and I'm like, "Pretty sure these are his boots from there." And he goes, "Well, I was on set and I got them right from the set, so I know my boots are the boots from Qui-Gon's thing." So I show him our boots, and then he smiles. He goes, "Oh, I got the bottom of the boots. You got the top of the boots."
Because they'd burned through at the ankles. So he got the soles that fell off, and we got the
top of
the
the
tops that were still
So
strapped
between our
on.
collections coming together, we have all of Qui-Gon Jinn's boots from the funeral.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the great things about the Saga Museum. Idea of it is bringing those things together to tell that story.
And it's interesting because everybody has different touch points. And that's one thing you learn from watching people go through the collection is, there's different pieces that resonate and make people go, "Oh, wow." A friend of mine, this is way back in the day, but a good friend of ours, Ryuma Hoshina in Japan, he's the guy who really helps get a lot of our Japanese stuff now. But he came when he was just he was an exchange student in Canada, actually, learning English. And he came down with his girlfriend at the time, and they sat there in the rooms and they just cried. And if you go to his, there's actually pictures. He has his own blog on his on the internet, and you can go back to some of his stories. And there's pictures of him from that time, and he talks about how moved he was. And that's just, that's the fun part about watching people come and just interact and seeing what resonates, and it actually inspires you to move forward and you keep pushing because you realize how important this whole thing could be and how Star Wars does move people and so I think it's like we enjoyed it because it's like a collection on its own is cool, but sharing a collection is what makes it worthwhile.
Yeah.
That right there. That was the button for the whole museum's purpose. I love it. I'm thinking about that was the CTA. This is incredible. The Saga Museum's a very exciting fan-driven project. I'm curious, kind of like shifting back to your guys' Star Wars journeys, some of our favorite kind of questions to wrap up any interview are, what are the top 3 elements that make Star Wars to you?
Well, that's a really good question, especially because the TV series have been getting more diverse, and there's a lot of people going, "Well, this doesn't feel like Star Wars to me."
Mm-hmm.
And I don't feel that way. Like, I don't feel that they've made anything that isn't Star Wars to me.
Yeah.
The important thing to me is it's set in a realized universe, where there's good and evil, there's conflict, there's shades of gray, and there's big stories and small stories. And I think everything Lucasfilm has done has hit those points still.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, I'd say for me, Star Wars is a fun. It's a science fantasy romp through this universe, and I think visually it has to be stunning. It has to be things that make me just go, "Oh wow, oh my god, I want to see that again," and that for me, Star Wars has that kind of thing, and I think it also has characters that I feel like I know those people. I understand those people. I've met those people in my life. They're real people. That for me, that's the big thing too. Is even if they're not maybe the people I want to be best friends with, I understand them. They're and stuff like that. But there are ones I will totally be friends with. Yoda, you and I.
Oh, yeah.
or even a scoundrel.
Even a scoundrel here and there, and even a scruffy-looking nerd.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, but I agree with you both, and Vic, to your point, like I've been feeling very similarly. I actually removed myself from Twitter because I was having it was not the environment for me because I found that I don't know. I really agree with what you're saying about how, Star Wars is Star Wars if it feels real, if it feels authentic, if it feels like Star Wars. And I haven't found that anything they've been doing has lacked that, even if it, some stories I might prefer more than others. And I feel like we've lost that a little bit, or a certain segment of the fandom's lost that a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you get a chance to ever like either Comic-Con or Star Wars Celebration, I know he does it. Doug Chiang, who's the designer, kind of was vice president of design now. It's the look and feel of everything Star Wars. He has a panel he does, where he talks about the how he learned about what Star Wars looks like from George and from Ralph McQuarrie, and then now how he's bringing that into the current. And he has it's a great presentation, lots of
That's
visuals
cool.
and stuff. But one of the cool things he does is he designs a spaceship or a droid or something else live right in front of you.
Wow.
And talks about as he's designing why this is Star Wars, and like he'll show you something. It's like now you might think a spaceship looks like this, right? But that's not a Star Wars one. Star Wars one has that, and he'll talk about angles and things and the little bits of with rust on it and stuff. Just all the things that make something Star Wars, and he'll literally design something as he's talking.
That's
and
cool.
show you how he would design a new Star Wars droid, new Star Wars building, whatever. And so it's a really great. I've seen it a couple times now, and it's a really, really, really good.
That's neat.
Do you have some of those drawings for the museum?
Sadly, we don't. He does give them out at the end of each one. He picks somebody in the presentation to give it to.
That's brilliant.
Wow.
We do have his drawings for the Death Star Theater house. We got that. We actually got to have him do 3 different designs, and then we got to be George. Go, I like this element here, and he merged this element with this element and bring it together. And then he did final set of drawings for us and stuff like that.
That's cool.
We have his original concepts and then his finished drawings that they used to build it.
Very
cool.
That's
spectacular.
Yeah, Dylan Works built it for us. So
Yes.
we talked about them earlier.
Shout out to Dylan Works.
Yeah, Michael. My Michael.
So our last question, and we'll do this. Start with you, Lisa, and then go to Vic. We've talked about your collection, the Saga Museum, how you started out in the collection in '95, which I think is an amazing time. We've talked about this for the past hour. Can you say what does Star Wars mean to you?
I should have known you were going to ask this question because it is the name of your podcast, obviously. I mean, Star Wars means to me friendship. So much of it says Vic and I go through and we're now inventorying our collection bit by bit. We bought it and put it in boxes. Now it's getting put out and we're inventorying it. And it's amazing how many times an item will come and I'll be like, oh, I got that. We got that from so-and-so, or we're on that trip or whatever. And there's all these friends associated with that, So I think there's this friendship and this sharing of Star Wars with fellow fans that's so huge. I mean, and just sharing with Vic, and that's something we do together. We share this love of Star Wars. And so I think, for me, it's this kind of friendship and sharing thing that has become a big part of Star Wars for me.
I love that.
That's great. Vic, what would you say Star Wars means to you?
So Star Wars as a whole, not just thinking about collection or collectibles, but as a universe, in one word, that word would be hope. Like, it's a new hope. It's a 50-year-old hope. Yeah. I don't know what else to say about that.
I don't know if you need to. I love that.
Hope summarizes Star Wars in a perfect, concise way.
Yeah, it really does.
It's the bit of everything. It's the pure element of Star Wars. It's the atoms of Star Wars.
I think it's what a lot of us turn to when we need it.
And hope fosters imagination. And if I had to pick a second word, it'd be imagination.
Yes.
I love that. No one said that on our show before. I love that.
Yeah.
Imagination.
Excellent. Well, Lisa, Vic, where can people find you, find out more about Saga Museum?
So I mean, right now, Saga Museum is going to be made under the Rancho Obi-Wan 501c3 that we have. So we have if you go to ranchoobiwan.org is our baseline for the Rancho Obi-Wan landing page, and on there you'll see a bunch of stuff about taking tours there and donating and things like that, and news. But there's also a tag for the Saga Museum there, and you can go there and it talks about our Julian's auction, talks about our plan. There's a really cool video that we made that kind of shows our vision for what we're trying to accomplish with the Saga Museum, and you can watch that, and then hopefully see how you can get involved and help us make this, because it's going to take an entire city, not just a village, but a city to help us make this thing. It's going to take lots and lots of people helping out in however you can. I hope you can come along for the ride. There's a way now, and I think there's a way to get in the newsletter here, follow along with our news as it happens, and then, help out wherever you can. Let other people know about the Saga Museum, the more people that know, the more people become involved, and it becomes, you get to see in the latest in Andor season 2, they're, we were talking about just how, they can't beat us because there's so many people, the people around the world. It's not just me. If I fall, there's so many more people. And that's when you're going to succeed. And I think we have all those people around the world. We have this amazing group of Star Wars fandom. And I think together we can make this happen. And so spread the word. If you hear about this and you love what we're doing, spread the word. Tell your friends, have them tell their friends. Together we'll rise up. Reality.
I love that.
So that there will be no more dark times from 83 till 95.
What were you going to say, Vic?
The SagaMuseum.org works, and hashtag the Saga Museum on all the socials.
Love it.
Excellent. Well, I'm very excited for the Saga Museum. I'm a big collector and just love seeing collections. I also love, like you mentioned, Vic, the process of the creation of it. Vic, Lisa, thank you so much for joining us today, for sharing your collection with us, for telling us about the Saga Museum.
Glad to do it.
Happy to be here.
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you also.